Good evening. Thank you all for joining us for the Milton debate in 2021. Tonight we have three very distinguished candidates running for the District 1 Post 1 seat and to represent you on the Milton City Council. Now, council members are elected at large, so every citizen who is registered to vote can do so starting today, actually, which is the beginning of early voting. So my name is Matt Kunz. I am facilitating this tonight. And 10 years ago, I don't like to tell people to do anything I haven't done myself. 10 years ago, I actually was a candidate at a debate, and I have to tell you, I was a nervous wreck. And I'm sure I can feel some of those butterflies as well tonight. But when we have a vision for a city, when you walk on that sidewalk leading up to the debate, it's funny how a peace will come over you because your vision is more important than how you feel right now. And that's why we're here tonight. And I learned at that time through much prayer that vision was more important than the feelings that I had at that moment. So since we are in the house of prayer, I want to introduce Father Reggie, and he is the pastor of St. Aidan's Episcopal Church, and he will do our invocation tonight.
Good evening. My name, as Matt stated, is Father Reggie. Welcome to St. Aidan's. We're delighted to be able to host this for you this evening. I'm going to say, the Lord be with you. You will say, the Lord be with you. And also with you. Let us pray. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon those who hold office in this city and those who seek to hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom, fairness, charity, justice, and honesty, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people through Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Now, if you would all please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you all. So this debate is important because it helps the candidates know what it means to share their vision in front of you, and they will be challenged for their views as soon as they share them when they're on the council. How they respond will be televised for all to see and recorded in the archives of the city for citizens and journalists to watch for years after. But more important, this debate is for all of you. An election is a deciding moment for a city, and it removes the posturing of sales pitches and social media and lets you, the voter, hear and see the candidates' visions from their own lips. This affords you the opportunity to look each of them in the eye and see them in the pressure situation that politics can be, and determine if they have the mettle to lead our city towards a brighter future. Of course, ultimately, the responsibility is all of yours, and I can tell you from experience that what they say often becomes the mandate of the elected official. They will press toward the vision they expressed here tonight. So listen closely and choose wisely. Before we begin, there are many people to thank. First, thanks again to Father Reggie of St. Aidan's Episcopal Church and Curtis Mills, who's not here tonight, but helped arrange this venue for tonight. Thank you to the St. Aidan's Boy Scout Troop 1459, led by Travis Allen, who's here, and they set up the room that you're all sitting in tonight, and they'll take it down as well. Thank you to David Pearson and Adam of Southeast Elite Entertainment LLC, so they're making sure that you can hear everything we're talking about tonight for the duration of this. I'm glad it's not me handling that. So thank you to Appen Media, and Carl Appen is recording this, making it available on Facebook Live, and he'll have another version available on YouTube in the next day or two. And Carl and his team have collected multiple questions from our community, and that all came from you. So they have collected about 30 questions, and they went through them and segmented all of those into categories. So they are prepared. Our moderator for tonight is Chamian Cruz, and Chamian is a rock star. So she is a 2018 graduate of Appalachian State University, where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Journalism. And since then, she has covered public safety, education, and local government for the Northeast Georgian, as well as crime and courts for the Gwinnett Daily Post. She joined Appen Media in August of this year, and now covers local government in North Atlanta. The timer for tonight is me, but I couldn't get my other guy. So each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for their opening and closes, and each will be allowed 1 minute to answer the questions by our moderator. For the candidates, when I raise my hand a little bit, that's a 10-second warning, and then when I raise the hat, okay, that's time's up, right? So if you need to use the restroom, it'll be around the back, to the left, and go down the stairs for any reason, and we also have an elevator if you need that. And I do ask you to be quiet during the duration of the debate, except for now, as I introduce our candidates in order as they appear on the ballot: Andrea, Jami Tucker, and Andrea Verhoff. Mr. Dianella, if you'd like to start with your 2-minute opening. I would. When you're ready.
My name is Aidan, and I'm running for Milton City Council. I grew up in Sage Springs, and I've lived in Crowd for the last 5.5 years with my family. My wife and I have 5 children ranging from ages 12 down to 11 months. We moved here from Brookhaven for a permanent home to raise our children that in a place that has a small town feel, that's safe, with great schools, and a great sense of community. We also love Milton because it's uniquely rural. Milton is a very special place to us. I say that because I've lived and worked all over the metro area, and it is different. I've been an attorney for nearly 20 years in the metro area. I currently serve as general counsel for Biogenesis Industries in Dawsonville. My legal education, experience, and training are an asset to Milton and the City Council. I will provide a unique perspective to evaluating the decisions facing Milton today. As an attorney, I'm resolution focused. I analyze issues from all sides to make the best possible decision to reach a long-term goal. I'm here to help preserve Milton's historic character and charm and uphold Milton's vision for the future. I've seen firsthand the negative impact of unrestricted growth with the lack of vision that has led to overdevelopment, extreme traffic, increased crime, and lower quality of life in many of our surrounding areas. You can count on me to protect Milton and our way of life.
First of all, thank you to Robert, Reggie, and the debate organizers for allowing us to find candidates to discuss our qualifications for City Council. Good evening to everyone else. I'm Jami Tucker. I'm here with my husband tonight. We've been married for 23 years, and we have 3 kind and loving children. And our passion is rescuing senior dogs. You may want to know, why would I vote for Jami Tucker? What's in it for me? What's in it for my family and my community? As the mayor's appointee to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, I've been honored to donate my salary back to the city to support Camp Joyful Souls, which serves our special needs families. I am the chair of my HOA Architecture Review Committee, and I also served our country as an officer in the United States Navy. Because of my military duties, my husband is Jami, my family has been fortunate to live all over the United States. Before moving to Milton, I was executive director of a 500-member organization who defeated a $100 million countywide tax increase. We also fought against a 400-acre parcel against overdevelopment. As I've always done, I will be a loud, strong, and passionate voice for our rural character and our Milton heritage. As a Citizens Police Academy graduate and member of the Community Emergency Response Team, I will always strongly support our first responders. And as a parent, safety is a priority. That's why I believe that we need more multi-use paths, crosswalks, and in particular near our schools. With an MBA in finance from Northwestern University, I've executed dozens of budgets, strategic plans, and served for more than 20 years. I'm eager to work for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for joining this evening, and a special thanks to St. Aidan's Church and to everyone involved in organizing the debate. Although I've met many of you in the room, for those of you that I've not met, my name is Andrea Verhoff, and I'm a woman of faith, a wife, a mother, a small business owner, an active community leader, and our family has called Milton home for over a decade. In 2010, my husband and I chose Milton as the place to raise our 3 daughters. Together as neighbors in this community, our children are attending the highest quality schools, participating in outstanding athletic and performing arts programs, experiencing our wonderful equestrian programs, attending small groups together, and we are committed to preserving all of these things that represent the community values of Milton. My degree is in economics, and I also bring 15 years of professional service experience in corporate America with large international firms such as Allegis Group, Bearing Point, and Pro-Horwa. I've led teams, managed budgets and operations, negotiated contracts, and driven revenue. In addition to my background as a corporate professional, I am an entrepreneur with my own small business based here in Milton. The combination of my corporate experience and launching and building my own small business here in Milton uniquely positions me with the necessary experience to represent the interests of our community. In addition to my business background, I'm heavily involved in giving back to our community, and I've chaired several fundraisers in our schools. Here in Milton, I've been involved with Girl Scouts, Junior Achievement, and National Charity League, where I'm currently serving as the membership chair for our Milton chapter. Over the last 3 years alone, my daughters and I have poured more than 300 hours of community service into charities such as Meals by Grace, Dreamweavers of Georgia, Drake House, Star House, and Foster Care Support Foundation. I'm humbled to be with you all tonight as your potential candidate, and as we continue to get to know each other, not only will our personal values align, but all the things that we love and value the most about the Milton community will align as well. Thank you.
So now I'm going to ask each of you one question that all of you will answer, and then I will ask each of you a different question. So to start off, why do you feel qualified to serve the people of Milton? Starting with Mr. Aidan.
I feel qualified to serve the people of Milton because I'm an attorney, I've had experience in training. I also have been in the community for 5.5 years with living all over this town, traveling to courts all over this town, and seeing different things. I have experienced what it makes Milton special in different ways, and because of that, it gives me a unique feeling of wanting to protect what we have, wanting to protect why we live in Milton. And through those experiences, I feel like I can contribute to the decision-making processes of the city council.
I feel that I am very qualified to be on the city council. As I mentioned earlier, I have been on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, which I believe is a very important foundational step in order to serve on the City Council. I've also been serving in the military, and being in the military is a very important part of being able to lead a team in really difficult and challenging situations. I've done a lot of leadership activities before. I've been very active in my community, and I've been able to gather 500 or more people to align towards a common objective. I'm here to serve the residents of Milton, and I'm very eager to work with you and listen to what you need and what you're looking for.
Thank you. I feel I'm qualified to be on City Council for the City of Milton because of my love for Milton and purely my love for Milton. We've been here over a decade, as I mentioned in my opening. We've watched changes happen to Milton. We've been involved in a lot of those changes. My children have gone to all the schools in our community. We support we support all of the school systems. I also have a strong business background, and I think bringing that experience to the table will also help with negotiations and also listening. I think it's important in our community when we have any scenario out there that it's important to listen to both sides and have an open ear. As far as leadership, I always lead with integrity. My family is full of values and faith, and I think this is something that I can bring to the Milton City Council.
Thank you. My next question is for Mrs. Tucker. I'm going to start with you. Milton has around 40,000 residents. What sort of management and communication experience do you have?
Yes, our census data did show that we've increased from 18,000 to 40,000. And from a communications perspective, I have a strong background in organizational change management. And I've been able to work with a variety of people from different backgrounds and work towards achieving a common goal. In my past experience, I worked with people who are on oil rigs, literally fighting for their lives from pirates on the open seas. And my job was to train them on a new asset management system. They didn't like it, and I was able to work with them, build trust, I listened to them at their needs, and I was able to transform the entire organization that was out on the open seas into very expert folks who were able to do their asset management jobs.
Thank you. Mrs. Verhoff, I have a different question for you. This is, Milton just passed an operating budget of $35.9 million. Do you have experience familiarizing yourself with large budgets?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I do. In my professional experience working for Bearing Point and the Legis Group, I've led many teams, negotiated many contracts, and worked with many of the financial services, many banks in the financial services vertical to manage the budget and bring together a team that is qualified to fit within the scope of work. So over my 15 years working in corporate, in the financial services vertical and accounting industry, I absolutely have the experience in budgets.
Mr. Ianella, have you already been volunteering or serving in the city? For example, how many city council meetings have you attended in person in the past 2 months? Have you participated in Milton's Citizen Government Academy or Citizen Police Academy, etc.?
So I did keep track actually, but since August, I've been to, I believe it's been almost every city council meeting that we've had. I've been to the MEC meeting, City Western Committee. I've been to the DR meeting, meeting that they had, and it was just the right thing to do to learn more so what city council is about, but not just that, it's what are the key issues that are happening right now, and it's not just with city council, but the different departments within the city. As far as volunteering or contributing in that way. I've coached my kids, and no, I've not been involved in any of the other two local governmental programs.
Thank you. And this is a question for all three of you. Starting with Mrs. Verhoff. How would you work with other elected officials outside the City of Milton, if elected?
Thank you. If elected, I'm a very collaborative person. I've worked in teams pretty much my whole professional career. It's always important to gain the insight from the team, work with the team, collaborate. I think working with the other elected officials outside of the city, I would follow along with what our council members have set up in the past. Let me regroup for a minute. I would also like to work with them side by side and possibly shadow them to understand what they are involved in day to day. And I think that would be an excellent collaborative effort.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker?
So I too am a very collaborative person. As I've been going door to door throughout our entire city of Milton, I've come across some absolutely incredible people in our city, and I've listened to all of them. And there are common themes, but there are also some very unique themes that come across. And I've taken careful notes and thought already of solutions that we can use once I'm in office in order to address some of these challenges that they face. In terms of collaboration, I've had a really good opportunity being on Parks and Rec in order to develop MOUs and partnerships with City of Alpharetta, other organizations that are trying to serve us here in Milton, and I can't say what some of those are because they're still under discussion. But I think that's part of what makes everybody successful, is working together and listening and reaching win-win situations.
So collaboration between cities and other governments, I think that starts with the mayor and the city manager. What are the issues and challenges facing the cities surrounding us, other city areas? I think with that, from a collaborative nature, within the firms I've worked at, we've always worked as teams. You know, I've been in small firms and then larger firms, and there's always a need to collaborate on issues that you may not have a full understanding of, or that just opens your eyes to new ideas, which leads to new facts, which leads to new solutions. I think you have to work together within city council, with the city manager's office, and the mayor's office, and find out how you can work with these other cities who are the right people to deal with, talk about the issues, and get it done.
Thank you. This next question is for you as well. Milton enters a contract each election cycle to authorize Fulton County to conduct its municipal elections. However, due to questions of integrity amid the 2020 general election and added costs cast onto Milton taxpayers under this year's agreement, the city is considering charting a path to conduct its own municipal elections. Should the City of Milton operate its own municipal elections?
That's a great question. Just the other week, I guess, there's a couple people fired in Fulton County for tearing up absentee ballots. There is a question of election integrity. What I think the most important part is looking at the contract that you have, evaluating it, and then taking that to an evaluation of, is it financially possible for us to do that? What does that look like? And then do we have the structure and infrastructure within the city to get the ability to have people staff those election polling places, generate the paper ballots? I know that's the big concern, is having paper ballots as opposed to voting machines. I think it's something worth looking into. I think it's definitely a strong issue. It's something to be considered, and I think there needs to be at least some preliminary investigation into what we can do.
I actually have a follow-up question for you. Early estimates show that operating its own elections could cost Milton $120,000 as opposed to $84,000, and that it would take about 5 years before the city broke even. How would you fund the City of Milton operating its own elections?
It doesn't necessarily sound cost effective, but again, this is an integrity issue. What's the value of that for our citizens and residents? You know, if that is something that's worth doing because it brings trust into the voting and election process, then I think there is some value to that. You know, it would have to be looked at as to where we get those numbers. Is there ways to save? You know, what can be done to maybe offset some of that cost?
Thank you. Mrs. Tucker, this next question is for you. Alpharetta and Milton have a reciprocity agreement for fire services and to some degree a shared youth league sports program. How do you view the relationship between Milton and Alpharetta, and what are your plans for that relationship going forward?
That relationship is extremely important, and that's something that we on Parks and Recreation have been working towards. We've noticed considerable gaps in fields. We don't have enough fields. We've noticed gaps for girls softball. So these are some of the things that we can address by being in a partnership with the City of Alpharetta. And we've had very good negotiations, as you stated most recently with our football. And what that allows us to do is not only have a broader opportunity to attend and schedule events at other facilities that are outside of Hilton, but we also have a chance to pay a resident fee. So it's a big savings for our families.
Thank you. Mrs. Verhoff, how would you work with Fulton County schools knowing that you also represent students who attend private schools?
Thank you. I have 3 daughters. One is at Milton High School. My middle daughter was at Northwestern last year. She is now at Veritas as a hybrid school. And my youngest daughter is at Crabapple Crossing. So we absolutely support the public school system. Milton is known for the high quality of public schools. That is the main reason why we moved here 10 years ago. I would absolutely work with them. And if my meetings with Katie Reeves, I believe that Fulton schools have a really tough job, especially now with everything going on in the world. Knowing that my children both go to public schools and I have one in private, I would find it seamless to work with the public school system.
Thank you. This next question is for all 3 of you, starting with Mrs. Tucker. Describe the ideal relationship between a municipal government and its businesses.
I love that question. What I'm a very strong proponent of is supporting our local businesses, and especially in Milton, where we have a very small commercial base. A typical city has about 40%. We are between 18 and 20%. So it's extremely important for our commercial businesses to thrive. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that we are frequenting those businesses that are in Milton, that we're promoting our local vendors. I have come up with an idea that I've presented to several folks that are very excited and will bring quite a bit of interest in coming here. No, it's not a bar. It's actually something very healthy. And I think coming up with ideas like that is extremely important. And we as residents benefit when our businesses thrive.
Mrs. Verhoff.
Thank you. As a small business owner that started my business here in Milton several years ago, I'm absolutely in support of a small business. I've met with several small business owners in downtown Crabapple, have listened to their concerns, what's working well for them and what is not. I am very open to having discussions with any of the small business owners if I'm on city council. I find myself walking into their buildings quite often and supporting them, and we have a reciprocal agreement. They also support my small business. There are ways to create more activity to drive business into Crabapple, into our Deerfield area. I've spoken on many occasions with Aaron Freeman in our Crabapple market area, and we are very excited about the different special events and opportunities that Crabapple will have in place to bring more people into town to support our small businesses.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yes. Describe the ideal relationship between a municipal government and its businesses.
The ideal relationship would be incentivizing companies to come in to our commercial areas. We have a lot of great, beautiful commercial space that's available, and finding ways to, drive revenue from the commercial businesses is huge. I mean, ideally, you have businesses that are open for the day, in the evening, that are extremely successful, sustainable, that drive our tax revenue, which helps the base, funds other programs, it funds different things within the city. As a pay-as-you-go city, it's always ideal to have businesses filling those locations, and then in the Highway 9 corridor, we're looking at revitalizing those areas to where it's more attractive for businesses to come in that space and have them feel like they're a part of it.
Thank you. This next question is for Mrs. Verhoff and has quite a few follow-up questions, but what type of businesses are suited for Milton? Do you think that bars belong in Milton? What about vape shops? If so, how would you regulate them?
Okay. The types of businesses that I feel belong in Milton are ones that will bring families out to shop, to play, to eat, to dine, to have a cocktail after dinner. I feel it is okay to have bars in Milton. We are losing so much business to downtown Alpharetta and downtown Roswell. We really have to create a space right in Milton so we can spend our own Milton dollars right in Milton, and people can have the entertainment that they're looking for in Milton. I don't feel like a vape shop is exactly what Milton is looking for. So I think as a council, we really need to vet out the type of restaurants and bars and businesses that are coming in here, and I think we've got that pretty well handled with the council that's currently in place. I know there's a process that we go through to make sure it's the right business for Milton and that it's the right feel and fit.
Thank you. Mr. Danella, how do you envision the City of Milton's role in promoting local small business? Is it the city's job to care about this?
It absolutely is. I think one of the key things right now that the city is doing and trying to do is promoting its brand. Promoting its brand and developing and continuing developing the vision for Milton. Looking at ways to, find your way in Milton for outside people. Meaning, when you drive into Milton, you're in Milton. We're trying to find ways to separate ourselves out from these other places, and by doing so, that becomes a way we can, get businesses to see what we can offer them.
Thank you. Mrs. Tucker, should we be attracting new businesses to the community? If so, how would you do it?
I think our first commitment is to our existing businesses. These are folks that have already trusted the Milton brand and invested in our community. So first and foremost, we need to make sure that they are right. We have great restaurants. We've got a new bar coming in, brewery coming in. These are the kinds of things that we've already established and need to be cared for. And then, from that point forward, of course, you do want to attract new business. But importantly, you do not want to step outside of that commercial footprint. We have a very well-defined comprehensive land use plan. And it's extremely important to make sure that what we have in each of those areas, whether it's defined as commercial or residential, that we're putting as much into it as we can and supporting everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Danilla, starting with you, moving on to public safety. How does public safety rank in your list of priorities, and do you envision a larger police or fire department?
We're just ranking priority. It's right at the top. I mean, we are growing as a city. With growth, right now the city's set up in 4 quadrants. So from a police perspective, we've got 4 patrol cars patrolling 4 different quadrants of the city and 1 supervisor at any one time. To me, as we grow as a city, as the residences grow, as the businesses grow, there's going to be a need for more police. Same goes for fire. We just hired, I think, 2 new police officers just recently, and then I think in the budget have room for 1 more, as well as additional patrol cars. From the fire safety perspective, it's equally as important. It has to be. We have to have the paramedics, the fire, the police. They all have to be equal, and they have to be available to protect our citizens.
Thank you, Mrs. Tucker. Well, as a veteran, someone who is willing to defend this country, I really align very closely with our first responders. Our city is one of the safest cities, and has been, in the entire state of Georgia. Our fire department has an extremely low ISO rating. That's why our insurance rates are low. These are all important things in order to make sure that we are safe and our city is protected. There are occasions when our fire department might need extra training, extra equipment, and in cases like that, we have our Milton First Responders Foundation and we have the Milton Fire Corps. And those 2 organizations work together to, number 1, determine what they can support based on the needs expressed, and number 2, to source that funding.
Thank you. As a mother, public safety is always the top priority, and as a citizen, it's definitely a priority as well. I've met with Chief Austin in the past week, and I have full confidence in our police force that they are doing everything that they can do to keep us safe. We are ranked the safest city in Georgia. In speaking with him, I learned about the programs that they have in place, the technology advances that are awarded to him, and the training that is offered to their team. They are constantly monitoring traffic patterns, speed patterns, and areas where we might need more controlled, like roundabout areas. So if there is any crime in the area, they are quick to respond and on top of it, and he has said he is learning about crime in other areas before it even hits Milton. So they are well prepared for anything that may happen to Milton.
Starting with you again, we currently have around 4 police officers per shift. In addition to their support staff, we currently have around 4 police officers per shift in addition to their support staff. Would you say this is an appropriate level of staffing? If not, what would you change the staffing to?
It appears to be right now at an appropriate level, based on the fact that we were voted the #1 safest city in Georgia. And the thing of it is as we grow, as more businesses come in, as there's more residents entering Hilton, it may not be enough. With the walkability of certain areas on Highway 9 and Crabapple, with the issues of speeding and commuter traffic, I think that a real key issue is to put a couple extra patrol cars out there and drive around and show that we don't want the speeders. When I talk about speeders, it's excessive speeding. There are ways to curb that just by police presence. Making a couple extra patrols around would assist in that.
Mrs. Tucker, we had a number of questions about alternative solutions to public safety. What do you think can contribute to Milton's public safety other than fire and police?
Well, I recently had a conversation with someone from the police department, as well as the fire department. And what we think is extremely important right now is reinvigorating our community emergency response team. That's the CERT group. With COVID, I think a lot of people really didn't keep up with their training. And as we've seen, there have been situations where our first responders are in need of some backup. And that's where people like us from the community can come in and we support our first responders. And the wonderful thing about CERT is that those skills can be carried anywhere you go. You could be on vacation and you'll know how to triage somebody. So it's an extremely important program. I think would be a great way to invite the community to partake in some of the activities that our first responders have to support.
Thank you. Mrs. Verhoff, what are some areas where you think public safety personnel in the City of Milton could benefit from additional training, such as answering mental health calls? Or do you feel like the city's public safety personnel are already appropriately trained?
I'm sure there's always areas for improvement, especially in mental health, since that seems to be one of the main areas where our country is unfortunately heading towards many more mental health concerns and issues, especially in our high schools and middle schools. So if that is one area where we could receive additional training, not only in our police force, but I think also in our community, that would be one area that I would focus on.
Thank you. Moving on to property issues. For Mrs. Tucker, if you could change one thing in the city's zoning code, what would it be and why?
I would love to see larger lot developments. We have been really fortunate to work with a developer recently who was willing to establish 3 to 5 acre lot minimums. Everyone I've talked to going door to door is extremely concerned about overdevelopment. And it's not to say we don't want new people moving in. Things will change. We need to keep aligned with our vision. What do we want our city to look like in 10, 20 years from now? So I think it's really important to be good at working with developers as well as working with the landowners. But if you can incentivize them and build these larger lots, it's going to keep the Milton brand intact. Thank you. Mrs. Brown.
Yes, and listening to Bob Chamian and Peyton Jameson, we have heard that the push for 3 to 5 acres is very beneficial for Milton. It keeps the rural character of our community in place. It's also very advantageous for developers. We can market larger homes and larger land lots and bring in quality families into Milton. People want to move to Milton for that rural feel, and if they have wonderful homes on 3 to 5 acres, and they're spaced out from their neighbors, 3 to 5, even 8 acres, I believe that would be very advantageous for our community. Thank you.
If you could change one thing in the city's zoning code, what would it be and why?
Okay. One, I think we have to be careful with looking at changing the zoning code to 3 to 5 acre lots or even bigger. I know there's potential for that. There are a lot of people whose, landowner rights would be infringed upon, like the ability to potentially have 1 acre lots. I think the change in the zoning code that would be most helpful right now is to look at the, I think it's the growth boundaries, and being able to take those growth boundaries around the areas where we have development, because that alleviates the issue of overdevelopment. It takes there's form-based code that has, you're developing certain things in those areas, and with the urban or the growth boundaries, that solidifies those areas, and that keeps from sewer extension and other overdevelopment of areas, and maintains it in the commercial area where it's established.
Thank you. Mrs. Tucker, Milton voters passed a $25 million green space bond in 2016. By the end of this fiscal year, the city will have spent around $20 million. Do you think Milton got its money's worth?
In a nutshell, I do. That referendum was voted to support it in an overwhelming majority. That bond has been probably one of the wisest use of debt in order to purchase land that has come up and become available. And so we've been able to use that bond to purchase active and passive, passive parks. To date, we have more than 300 acres of passive parks. And I think people really appreciate that open space. And I think our council has done a tremendous job of using that money for exactly the purposes it was intended. So I fully support something that the citizens decided to vote for.
As a follow-up question, do you think Milton needs another green space bond?
I've thought about that, and I think, again, it would go to the citizens. If you look at the org chart of the City of Milton, at the very top are the Milton citizens. So we serve them. But again, from what I've heard throughout my 1,000 or more conversations with different people around our community, is that they would support another bond, perhaps for active parks rather than passive parks. So I think it's something that we should ask our staff to take a look at.
Thank you. Mrs. Verhoff. Last month, Alpharetta utilized eminent domain in 12 separate instances for the McGinnis Ferry widening project. Milton has used the practice far less. What are your views on the use of government authority over private land in the City of Milton?
Anytime there's government overreach over someone's personal area, I find that to be concerning. As a small business owner, landowner as well, I would hope that the voice of the citizens would be heard before anyone is to take over their land or property or enforce a policy or a rule over their own personal belongings.
Thank you. Mr. Danella, enforcing Milton's code is sometimes a difficult task. First, would you agree? If so, how would you work with city staff to improve enforcement?
Yeah, it would be difficult at times. There's got to be a way to police and enforce, and you got to have the right staff, the right departments doing that. What does the code say about certain issues when it comes down to enforcement? You have to have the city and make sure they have the right amount of staff to enforce the rules that are laid out in the ordinances. Those that are being violated, what are they? Is there a way to change that? But get code enforcement gathers or enough people working with that staff with the city to enforce those rules. I think a lot of it has to do with being able to police it. Who does that? How many people are there to do it? Do we have enough staff to make that happen? Or is it citizen driven as well?
Thank you. Moving on to local government issues. Mrs. Verhoff, sorry. Describe your ideal relationship between a city government and its residents.
Thank you. The ideal relationship would be quite an open door policy, and I think that the City of Milton has done a great job of that. Their doors are always open for citizens to walk in and meet and have conversations and come to council meetings. I think our government also needs to lead with integrity and values and be consistent with our policies. What is good for one business or person must be good for another business or person. So I think, coupling that with the integrity and the trust in the city, I think the citizens need to believe that the city is making the right decisions, but I also feel like the citizens' input is very important as well as we continue to move forward as the city grows.
Thank you. Describe your ideal relationship between a city government and its residents.
An ideal relationship is one that's very cohesive. I mean, having programs to support the residents, and then, being able to understand and listen to the residents, what their wants are, what their vision is for the city, and the city being able to implement that. I think we, with our 2040 comp plan, that's been a great way to show how the citizens and our city work together and developed a vision for the future of Milton. And ideally, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that kind of cooperation, cohesive work, to have a long-term goal, long-term plan, and seeing that work between the residents and the city.
So I think it's critical that the city be receptive to its residents. The only reason that we would serve on the council is because of our residents. So in addition to going door to door to houses, we've also had a chance to go, my husband and I met with a lot of business owners. And what I've heard is that they really, really want to be in touch directly with the council. And I think that's super important, because if we don't really understand their needs, then we cannot serve them appropriately. Another thing that we've done as a city, and I respect this approach quite a bit, is our communications director has been sending out surveys. And those surveys are intended to gather information from the citizens, and that drives all kinds of things. It drives our prioritization of projects, it drives the services that we offer, and a variety of things.
Thank you. Mrs. Verhoff. It is estimated Milton will have received roughly $32 million from the Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. Voters passed in 2016. The tax is up for renewal this fall, and it is estimated to bring in another $36 million in transportation dollars. How beneficial do you think that T-SLOSS has been for Milton, and do you think it should be renewed?
Thank you. Yes, and I actually voted on that today. I definitely think it should be renewed. T-SLOSS has amazingly funded the majority of our roundabouts in Milton and has reduced our traffic greatly. I know I can go from pretty much one end of the city all the way to my home and maybe hit one stoplight. It's reduced the amount of traffic on Birmingham Highway, where I frequently drive my children back and forth about 17 times a day to school and practices. I think the funding has been an amazing program for our city, and as we continue to grow, we need to have improvements in our traffic patterns.
Thank you. Mr. Danila, how important is transparency in government? Can you provide any examples where you think it might be improved here in Milton?
Well, it's very important, obviously, because when you're up there making decisions as a city, with the city manager, what the projects and things they're implementing, with city council and everything, it's very important for the citizens to know and understand what's out there, what are the issues, and then prioritizing those issues based on what the residents and citizens want. That's a key part in any government. And what was the second part of the question?
Can you provide any examples where you think it might be improved here in Milton?
I can't necessarily think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, as far as what I've seen, there's information out there, when I've gone to city council meetings, I can look at the same agenda they're looking at. I know they work through these issues and they hear a lot about it, and all that's being presented by the city and staff. So I see as much as they see.
Thank you. Mrs. Tucker, how do you plan to engage residents about upcoming decisions you will be asked to make?
Citizen input is critical. Again, that's why we are here to serve on behalf of the community. Engaging them can be done in a variety of ways. As I said before, one of the things that I look at when I talk to people is what are some of the common themes or pain points that people are experiencing. And then how do we address those? So engaging the community sometimes has to do with putting groups together and kind of working through things and really listening. I'm a consensus builder. I like to hear what people think. I don't think I know all the answers. And sometimes people come up with very, very creative solutions. And that's why I like to engage directly with the community and see what their thoughts are. We have an incredibly bright and very well-connected community. People are involved and they care. So I think it's extremely important to have those conversations.
Okay, well then we're going to do our closing in the same order. So, Mr. Greenhow, if you will speak again.
I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight, those watching, those who will watch this debate. I'd also like to thank the team of organizers and everyone that's helped with this online, Sadie and Church for hosting this. Being an informed voter is crucial in any election process. City council members are empowered to make policy decisions and to approve ordinances, resolutions, and other local legislation to govern the health, welfare, comfort, and safety of the city's residents. As an attorney, I spent my nearly 20-year career evaluating issues, advising clients on making decisions to solve problems. I've also been trained on reading, understanding, and interpreting statutes and ordinances and applying those laws to any given situation. I bring that experience to Milton and to Milton City Council, where I would be helping make decisions for the good of Milton and its residents. I ask that you go to the polls and cast your vote for Appen Media for Milton City Council. A vote that preserves Milton's historic character and charm, protects our equestrian heritage, supports the citizen-drafted land use plan and the restriction of sewer expansion, opposes overdevelopment and high-density housing, strengthens public safety to prevent crime and the protection of the citizens' property and personal fee. And maximizes access to active and passive parks and recreation facilities. Go vote Appen Media. Thank you.
So once again, thank you to all of you for organizing, and to Father Reggie, and we are, of course, very blessed to be here and to live in this unbelievably wonderful community. In my comments this evening, I've outlined some of my priorities if I am privileged to serve on your city council. It goes without saying that we all want to continue to respect Milton's rural way of life. But it's much more than that. We've said our city is growing. New families and new businesses want to come to Milton. It's an ideal place to live. That's exactly why we chose it. You and I want to make sure that these inevitable changes are well managed and are occurring in keeping with our vision and our comprehensive land use plan, and that we stay aligned and guide everything that happened in our early years to go forward in the future. It has been an amazing run, especially for those of you that have been here since the city was conceived in 2006. The future is ours, and we do want our community in 5 or 10 or 20 years to be as amazing as it is today. I am eager to work for you to make that a reality. I bring to the job more than 20 years of financial planning and budget analysis and the discipline of extensive military experience. I've managed multi-million-dollar programs for one of the top nationwide healthcare organizations, and I have personally successfully led and fought a $100 million countywide tax increase, as well as defeated a development to be rezoned. As part of the HOA and Triple Crown on the Architecture Committee as a chairperson, I've been able to serve my community. I also serve on the advisory board at the Linear Technical College. Voters have an important choice to make, and that will impact our families and children, and I'm totally committed to all of you to make Milton the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming this evening. It's been a privilege to sit here and speak with all of you. Milton needs a council person representing them who has been entrenched in this community and has grown with them. My family and I have been part of the Milton community for over a decade. I believe that the combination of my 15 years in corporate America, the launching of my own small business and building my business right here in Milton, and the years of service to the community and leadership of our younger generation uniquely qualifies me as someone you can trust and represent the Milton values in City Council. I believe we need to preserve our land and balance our growth. I believe we need to keep our taxes low and protect our seniors. And where appropriate, I believe we need to further develop the connectivity of our community through the investments of sidewalks and trails. We've grown together in this community over the last 10 years I've been here, and Milton needs someone who has no other agenda than the love of Milton. You need to trust someone who will represent Milton, the Milton values in every City Council decision. Our values align with the values of Milton. With your vote, I would be honored to continue to serve Milton with integrity and good governance for the next 4 years on City Council. Thank you.